The Remarried Empress is back after a 10-month hiatus. However, if you, like myself, have a memory on par with a goldfish, then 10 months might be enough time for you to forget basically everything that has happened so far, and honestly that is completely understandable. With so many twists, turns, divorces, marriages, remarriages, mistresses, pregnancies, family feuds, and magic, there's a lot to remember. So whether you're the biggest Remarried Empress fan and just need a quick refresher, or you want to read the series but the 100+ episode hill is holding you back, here's all you need to know about this fantastic royal drama as it heads into its 3rd season. The Remarried Empress wastes no time and drops us right into the peak of the drama by giving us a glimpse into the future. Let me introduce you to Navier, the Empress of the Eastern Empire, with her husband, the Emperor of the Eastern Empire, Sovieshu, getting a divorce. But that's not the only thing we get to see, as we also get a glimpse of her remarriage, hence the title of the webtoon. But like I said, this is a flash forward, and to fully understand what's going on, we need to rewind a couple months back, to when Navier receives some news from her servants. They tell her that the Emperor, her husband, has brought back a slave girl from his hunting trip. When she goes to ask him about this information, he, as the series will continue to show, loves to shut down the conversation by being incredibly rude to his wife. After this wildly productive conversation, Navier and Rasha have their first encounter. Rasha fails in showing any sort of respect to the literal empress of an entire empire, and Sovieshu just kind of fails to understand how to treat a wife, and instead of being a decent husband, has the brilliant idea to make Rasha his mistress. Now, mistresses and consorts are commonplace in this time, but it doesn't stop Navier from feeling hollow inside. It also doesn't stop Rasha from being completely idiotic. Rasha, being the naive person she is, starts to refer to Navier as her sister because they share the same husband. Good lord. Anyways, Navier, needing a break from all the idiots that surround her, decides to take a stroll through the garden where she discovers a beautiful bird with a note. When she opens the note, it reads that its owner is drunk. Navier writes back that the bird is more clever than its owner, then it flies away. And what a twist! The beautiful bird turns out to be a beautiful man. We'll come back to that beautiful man later though. Moving on to a less beautiful man, Sovieshu requests that his wife find a lady in waiting for his mistress. Luckily, the bird comes back with a new letter, and Navier sends one back asking for the bird's name. Meanwhile, Sovieshu continues to be just awful and impatient, asking why Navier hasn't found someone for Rasha, and also blames her for spreading rumors that Rasha is a runaway slave. For being the emperor of an entire nation, Sovieshu ain't exactly the brightest bulb. Navier, feeling justifiably upset, hides in her garden where the bird yet again finds her, and she gives it the name Queen, ironically because the bird turns out to be Prince Henry, with an I for some reason. Some more drama between Navier and Rasha happens. Sovieshu sides with Rasha over Navier, something that happens a lot throughout the series. Anyways, Happy New Year's! We get to enjoy a New Year's ceremony, and our two main characters finally get to meet as people instead of bird and person. After a note and a couple days, a bet is made that whoever figures out who's who first wins the bird, which is weird because the bird is Prince Henry, so he technically bet himself, but he's also cheating because he knows who's whatever, that's not important. Henry approaches Navier as a person. It's wild that I have to make that distinction, and they have a tour of the castle. Henry immediately shows disdain for Rasha, which we love. The New Year's banquet finally arrives. Sovieshu continues to be an awful husband, favoring Rasha over Navier. Meanwhile, best bird boy, Prince Henry, comes in, gets a dance in with Navier while rejecting Rasha. Nice job. Rasha tells her lady in waiting to tell Prince Henry that she's the one who's been sending letters back and forth with her, which blows up in her face. Then Rasha pretends to be the one exchanging letters with Prince Henry, which also immediately backfires. When Henry points out the lies in front of Sovieshu, Sovieshu, being a fool, decides to challenge Henry to a duel for the crime of being honest, I guess. Navier, being the only reasonable person in this empire, diffuses the situation, and after some politics, Henry gets in trouble for his attempts to rebuild relationships, which is basically saying he'll kill Sovieshu, the empire of a nation. Then some rumors pop up about Rasha's beauty causing the duel, more like her unbeautiful heart. I'm not good at this. Some more politics happen. A special banquet occurs that Rasha isn't invited to. The Grand Duke of Uppbeat, Kaufman, questions why the Emperor has a mistress when he has an empress, which is honestly fair. Another heart-to-heart with Navier and Henry. Meanwhile, Rasha is playing politics when she notices Viscount Lodeshu. Rasha is a runaway slave. If you think slaves are low on the ladder, then oh boy, runaway slaves are further down. And while there are rumors, there isn't any hard evidence. That is until Viscount Lodeshu, the lord of the manor where she worked at as a slave, i.e. hard evidence. Not knowing her status, he basically outs her in front of the entire party, leading to another fight between Navier and Sovieshu. That's a given. A fun moment between Navier and Henry about Queen, but back to the drama, as Sovieshu basically forces Viscount Lodeshu to say he was mistaken. And while it was embarrassing for him, this leads him to start blackmailing Rasha with a baby, her baby. Apparently, his son had a child with Rasha. Viscount Lodeshu led Rasha to believe the baby died, but it didn't, offering to help her with the politics side of things, but only if she helps him. Anyways, some more cute moments between Navier and Henry happen. New important character alert. Duke Urgi, close friends of Henry, also weirdly becomes Rashta's close friend and protector and defender somehow and counselor, tells her that she needs to shift focus and drama onto someone else. Navier leads a meeting to establish diplomatic relationships with Uppbeat, that Grand Duke that questioned why the Emperor had a mistress. Interestingly, he's the one who asked Navier to lead it, leading to Sovieshu being weirdly jealous. Rashta asks Navier if Duchess Tunya is a woman of loose morals by any chance, which is a very confusing thing to ask. Anywho, it's Navier's birthday coming up. Sovieshu wants him to go on a trip together. She starts receiving gifts, including a love potion, we'll come back to that later, and a cake with a jewel from Prince Henry. Navier and Sovieshu go to a villa by themselves. Sovieshu gets sick. Viscount Lodeshu starts blackmailing Rashta, requesting money for her child that she thought was dead. She starts giving him some jewelry and rings. Sovieshu and Navier come back a week later. After Sovieshu gets better, Duchess Tunya has a tea party. Duke Urgi meets Navier. Some tea is spilt, figuratively of course, as Rashta not so subtly throws shade at Duchess Tunya for having multiple lovers. Duke Urgi also throws shade at Prince Henry, even letting it slip that Henry's been planning something for the past couple years. Rashta requests that Viscount Lodeshu find some dirt on Duchess Tunya. Navier confronts Henry about said plan, but he says he can't share it. Viscount Lodeshu finds out that Duchess Tunya's fiance's brother, Lord Maris, fell in love with Duchess Tunya, but Duchess Tunya married her fiance, of course. Lord Maris gave up everything to go live in a temple and less than a week later killed himself. Meanwhile, Duchess Tunya had a child 7 months after the wedding, and there were rumors that it was actually Lord Maris's child. Rashta decides, hey, this is good enough, asks Viscount Lodeshu to spread some rumors that before Lord Maris's death, he was visited by a beautiful noblewoman. Rashta continues to make payments to the Viscount, but Sovieshu finds out that one of the rings that he gave Rashta as a gift, she gave to the Viscount. So after finding this out, he decides to keep a close eye on all of her spending and jewelry, so she can't give anything valuable away again. In secret, Rashta decides to get a loan from Duke Urgi so she can continue paying the Viscount in secret. Duke Urgi agrees to the loan as long as she tells him why she's keeping it a secret, which she agrees to. Oh, by the way, there's magic in this world, obviously, but the reason I bring it up is because Navier sponsors a girl, Evelai, to attend a magic school, which is also where we learn that the number of mages is falling every year. Also that Henry is a top student. Henry and Navier have dinner, some more drama happens with Duchess Tunya, a public masquerade ball is thrown, but gasp! Navier and Rashta are wearing the same thing. Luckily, Sovieshu actually saves the day. Later, Duchess Tunya's husband wants a divorce. Also, Rashta got stabbed by Viscount Landre, someone head over heels in love with Duchess Tunya. However, it's not all bad news for Rashta, as surprise surprise, she's pregnant. Great for her, worse for the Viscount Landre, who can now be executed for treason. But Duchess Tunya pleads with Navier to at least get him a trial. Turns out the Viscount did an investigation on Rashta, finding out that Viscount Lodeshu was starting the rumors about Duchess Tunya. Because of the investigation, Viscount Landre gets banished instead of executed, but the bad news continues as Henry needs to head back home as his brother's health starts to deteriorate. Anyways, Duchess Tunya gets a divorce, Viscount Lodeshu moves closer to the capital, the love potion comes back into the story. Navier asks the Grand Duke Kaufman about the potion, he says it'll work, also because he made it. Turns out it was way more effective than he first thought, as he falls madly in love with Navier, hits on Sovieshu, not really important, just wanted to bring it up, but his antidote doesn't work. So now he's just in love with Navier, even willing to clock Sovieshu in the face. 10 out of 10. Speaking of violence, Navier's brother, Lord Koser, returns and is heated about Rashta. Kaufman returns to his homeland, Prince Henry's brother passes away, and he needs to find a new queen pronto. Navier unfortunately has to throw a banquet for Rashta's child, a lot of anger there. Speaking of anger, Rashta's child can't be the future ruler because she's a mistress. Koser gets wildly upset when Rashta calls Navier infertile and that she has to adopt her child. Rashta lies that Koser pushed her when he didn't. Trouble arises when someone mixes an abortion drug into Rashta's food. It luckily didn't harm the baby, and it turns out it was Kosar. Sovieshu actually comes in clutch to bury the incident. During a party, Viscount Lodeshu's son and daughter sees Rashta, but the Viscount tells them not to say anything. Meanwhile, Duke Urgi tells Rashta that to protect her child, she needs to become the Empress. Viscount Lodeshu continues to blackmail Rashta, asking for a dress from a top designer for his daughter. The same daughter is invited to a chat with Navier and later a tea party, basically just to intimidate Rashta. Rumors spread about some empire nonsense. Henry gets coronated and becomes king of the Western Empire. We also get a lot of information on what he was planning, mainly that he wants to conquer the Eastern Empire. A debutante's ball occurs, where Rashta gives Viscount Lodeshu's daughter the same dress as her. Koser, Navier, and Sovieshu all seem to be investigating Rashta's past independently. Navier stops after Sovieshu finds out. Koser just straight up kidnaps Viscount Lodeshu and cuts his ear off to get information. Finds out that she's a slave, there's a bill of sales, and that she has a child. Sovieshu finds this out too because he had someone tell Koser and or Viscount Lodeshu, to which he frees the Viscount and confines Kosar into his room. Navier also finds finds out, to which Sovieshu comes up with the wildest plan. He's gonna divorce Navier, make Rashta his empress just long enough to make her heir legitimate, but the commoners are gonna want Navier back, so they're likely gonna start a campaign to bring her back, to which he will. Crazy. Anyways, the girl that Navier is sponsoring starts to lose her mana. Sovieshu is gonna banish Kosar. Sovieshu asks Rashta to be his empress for just a year and that he'll divorce Navier. Navier hears this too and is justifiably upset. She takes a day to clear her head. She stumbles onto Henry. Yay! Henry says that he would love if Navier was his queen, and Navier actually accepts. Sovieshu burns all of Navier's letters in front of her and also plans to shoot down any messenger birds from Henry. Speaking of Henry, he sends people to bring Lord Kosar to his empire after he got banished from the Eastern Empire. Henry sends his blue-haired friend and assistant McKenna to bring a letter to Navier, but it gets shot down. And as the weirdest threat, Sovieshu cooks a different bird and surrounds it with blue feathers and gives it to Navier. Luckily, McKenna is alive. Navier also pieces together that the bird and McKenna might be the same. Also, Sovieshu gifts Navier a different blue bird. She, of course, rejects it. Rashta swoops in, takes the bird, yanks some feathers off of it, and claims that Navier did it. Sovieshu also plans for nobles to come in and pretend to be Rashta's parents. Unfortunately, Duke Urgi did the exact same thing on the exact same day. Henry and Kosar meet, and Henry desperately tries to win over his future brother-in-law, his words not mine, also setting up a way to get messages to Navier through Kosar. Way to go, future brother-in-law. Their parents, Rashta, don't choose throw Kosar under the bus, but that's quickly disproven. Navier, being a good person, sets up some stuff for the future of the empire because Rashta is probably gonna suck at her job. Also sends a message to Henry that the plan is on. Sovieshu meets with the high priest to get a divorce, to explain that the empress ate some cookies when she was younger that were laced with a drug to induce an abortion, but could also render people infertile. The priest also meets with Navier to talk about the divorce. Henry comes in as a bird, gets shot, but isn't hurt. Henry shows himself just in time because it's divorce time, baby! Navier and Sovieshu get a divorce. Navier immediately, seconds later, gets married with Henry. Sovieshu complains but is laughed at, but Navier and Henry are basically detained in the trophy residence for 4 days. Sovieshu willingly lets Duke Urgi take Henry, but Navier sneaks away with them, and we end the recap with Navier arriving in the Western Empire as everyone bows down to their king and queen. Oh my god. Wow, that was dense. That was so dense. But that's all you need to know going into season... Excuse me? Sorry? Excuse me? That's only season 1? I have to do another part, don't I?